Hello. I would like to speak about parts of my retreat experiences, but also about something that I learned before retreat and after retreat. I will speak about, from the worldly perspective, they call it overview effect. From our perspective is maybe more called like developing our mind and heart. So I don't know about you, but for me, definitely during retreat, my senses are more open. I hear more, I see more, I have a more sensitivity towards touch. I'm thinking more clearly and more broad, more deep. I have more reception of my feelings. Do you have similar experiences? Maybe. And the mind is not so destructive with work or with socializing, with wants and needs, since we don't go out shopping anyway, but during retreat, the going out, doing something is reduced. So that helps to have a direct perception of our experiences, of our environment. Our understanding of the Dharma deepens as we continue to subdue our emotions and reduce these distractions. And we can use the time to study, practice, contemplate. So the Dharma becomes very experiential for us if we really stay focused with it. So let's say I'm meditating on loving kindness or metta. Then I start with myself, and then I extend the feeling of metta, loving kindness, towards those who are close to. Could be my teacher, my friend, my family, the community, and then more the extended community. Students who are coming here, friends, lay supporters, and then more neutral people, such as those I have met in Newport or UPS drivers. I have just briefly met, and I can just record their names and their voice or something like that. So, and then if my heart opens and I feel safe, then I may be able to extend it to those who are rather difficult for me at this time. And then I even can go further and expand my feeling of loving kindness to very difficult cases, such as politicians who harm thousands or even millions of or leaders, thousands or even millions of people or sentient beings of all kinds. So this practice of loving kindness, for example, done every day, every week, every month, every year, brings changes about in our experiences. It changes how we look at things, and we are more broad-minded. It's not about me and myself or my friends, about their friends. It demolishes the borders. It cracks the heart open. And this way we extend our values from a single person to family, friends, even enemies. And this is a way how we transform our family, our community, eventual nations, or humanity. His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, each person cultivates his or her mind, the effects will spread and lead to a better world. So I think this is a very profound way of practicing, and it will affect our life and our future lives tremendously. And there are other ways where one can receive some intellectual but also experiential understanding, and we can use those experiences to benefit ourselves and others. Before winter retreat, I listened to a short message of an astronaut, a German astronaut. His name is Alexander Gerst, and he came back last November. He was 1 year on the space shuttle ISS. And he spent 12 months, 250 miles above Earth. And this brought a big change to his mental experiences. So actually several US astronauts and many more from worldwide. Altogether, over 550 astronauts have spent in space, different time differences, up to 1 year. And all of them, or many of them, have experienced tremendous changes in their minds. They started to see the planet in a different way, but also developed a different relationship to it. Some refer to that change as an overview effect. The spacefighter Frank White brought up this term in the 80s to describe the mental shift astronauts experience. And they start to experience certain empathy for humanity and a sense of unity. So I like to share Alexander Gerst's insight, but also some of the other astronauts who spend time in space. These astronauts may not meditate, but they have a perspective that we don't or have never experienced. And I think when you look closely, you might see some similarities that when we practice loving kindness or compassion, experience. Maybe not on the same level and not deep enough to bring change about, but still it is something that brought benefit to them and to others. So in a moving message to all citizens and future children of this planet, the German ISS commander Alexander Gerst appealed to humanity to finally get its act together on climate change. He says, right now it looks like we, my generation, are not going to leave this planet in its best condition for you. Of course, in retrospect, many people will say they weren't aware of what we were doing. But in reality, we humans, right now, we are polluting the planet with carbon dioxide. We are making the climate reach the tipping point. We are clearing the forests. We are polluting the oceans with garbage. We are consuming the limited resources far too quickly. And we are waging mostly pointless wars. And every one of us has to take a good look at themselves and think about where this is leading. I very much hope for our own sake that we can still get our act together and improve a few things. At the 2015 United Nations Climate Conference in Paris, several astronauts from different parts of the world gave statements as well to support, to give their insights to the political leaders, to the powers of this world. They say, we have not just heard about the negative impact the industrial age has had on our planet. We have seen it with our own eyes. We recognize deforestation, wildfires, and so on, which are related to climate changes. We astronauts have been witnessing the continued shrinking of the Aral Sea, the burning rainforest along the Amazon River and Indonesia, the polluted air over the industrial zones, and the dirty water at the river deltas. From our vantage point, 250 miles above the Earth, we can see how precious the Earth really is. When you look at our planet from space, it is beautiful, fragile, and there is this little thin layer all the way around our atmosphere. And that's the only thing that protects us from the really bad vacuum in outer space. This little fragile layer, the atmosphere, is part of our life support system. We need to be really careful with it. And one astronaut from Netherlands, he said, suppose I can transfer the experience which I have to you, then you would go out and see the Earth. And when you have the spirit and the insight and the attitude of an astronaut, you start to love the Earth. And if you really love something, you don't want to lose it. And I think that's true, isn't it? And if you really care for each other or about each other, if you really have a deep understanding and experience of interdependence and of rebirth, cause and effect, we would do everything possible to care of what we have. It's like Manuel Tapa's effort in a very simple daily approach to maintain our buildings here at Sravasti Abbey. Now we know all that cause and effect will show its signs on the buildings if we leave them how they are, if we leave them exposed to the weather and such. So why do we expect permanence on a global level, on even a planetary level? What does not work on a micro level, such as we see it with our own body, we see it with connections we have with family, friends, everything is changing constantly. So permanence can't be found here, neither somewhere in space. All our actions in everyday life have an impact on the local and global level. So all astronauts who spoke up at the UN, United Nations Climate Change Conference said, whether you are a government, a business, or a university, or an individual, you can make a change. So we are not on a sustainable path, they are saying. In order for us to ensure the survival of our species and all the other species on this planet, we need a positive course correction, and we need it now. So then Nicole Scott, maybe some of you know her since she is from the US, she finally summarized, I humbly ask you, before you spend time together talking about the issues, that was before the conference addressing the leaders, but I think it's still addressing us. Before you talk about the issues and potential solutions, please make the commitment right now in front to put those words in action, to cooperate, to commit, and to commence forward with the goal of protecting our home planet. And I think this should be part of our daily morning motivations, and I tried that, and it's very effective. If we wish not to harm any sentient being, if we wish to benefit sentient being, then we should do everything possible to develop love, compassion, and wisdom, and then do whatever we can to protect this environment, to be mindful of the resources we use, and to speak up when we hear or see that others are destroying our life conditions and the conditions for future life on this planet. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he said in March 2019, in an interview with Time magazine, when Trump expressed America first, I felt a little uncomfortable. America, as a leading nation of a free world, should take more serious concern about global issues. Global warming does not make any exception. This continent or that continent, on this nation, that nation, the effect for global warming on the Tibetan Plateau is as much as South Pole and North Pole. Environmental protection is essential, he says. On top of that, I think a lot of problem which we are facing is our own creation. My nation, my religion, their religion. Due to that differences, we create a lot of problems. And so now the only remedy, he says, to reduce that is oneness of human beings. We have to live on this planet side by side, and that's the only way. So he is emphasizing the qualities or the development of equanimity, of cooperation, through the development of love, compassion, and wisdom. And I think it's helpful if we can start even by simulating the overview effect, so our imaginations, and our imaginations has no borders. We can imagine whatever we want, and we can imagine the earth above. If it helps to zoom in and out, if we don't have any other technique to develop this kind of overview effect. And last but not least, we need to understand that each and everybody wants to be happy and not suffer. We need to understand our impacts on others and on our environment and the whole world. And we need to strengthen our connection, and so to build a huge international force that will work together on that noble goal to preserve life conditions in order to bring benefit rather than harm. Thank you.